All right, guys, welcome. I'm glad that you could take time out of your busy day to hang out with me and have this chat. Before we get started, I'm just going to give you the gist of our conversation today. It's a principle that we use often in my business and help customers to implement in their business, and it's the 80/20 rule. All right, so we can all easily find ourselves feeling overwhelmed. Most of us, actually live in a world in an existence of pure overwhelm. And one of the things that has been very helpful throughout the years for me to prevent overwhelm and be highly productive is to really understand this 80/20 principle. All right. So what I want to do is go through today and discuss, how you can apply it to your own business, how you can apply it to areas of your business that will, have measurable results. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let me know if you guys can see my screen. Oop. Can you see my screen okay, Mario? Yeah? Can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So here's a top end observation is that most of the clients that we tend to work with when they initially get started with us have a very hard time understanding this concept. And a lot of times they're coming in frustrated, overwhelmed, stressed out, and really kind of, again, have been grinding for quite a few years and
Oh,
can't seem to get
end of the
unstuck.
day now, bro. Done
Mute
it.
everybody here. And unfortunately, in that kind of state or that kind of pattern, not too much new or creative can happen. And really, it's something that we can personally implement, and it has a beautiful effect when you start to implement it yourself personally in your personal life, and start to be observant of this pattern. It's very, very contagious. All right, so you can very easily teach production managers, you can teach sales reps how to think this way, and it can become a part of your culture. And it's a pretty simple concept. In the chat box, by the way, guys, I've thrown in the workbook if you guys want to have a peek at that. And yeah, so most contractors believe that just the seven sales script is all they need. All right. In a lot of cases, sales is what I hear most often. Marketing, if they only had a couple more leads. But really, in reality, what we want to think of is that's the exact thing kind of holding back their business. All right. So most of you guys that we see and that we observe have deep infrastructure issues, all right, that are actually creating these bottlenecks for them that even if they did get more sales, if they did get more, more opportunities, it would probably accelerate their demise. All right, if that makes sense. Okay, so again, that doesn't help to get end the chaos. It increases the chaos. If we're not properly systemized and we're not really focusing on the things that are going to be able to leverage that new opportunity, we're going to see it slide through our hands and be more and more overwhelmed, stressed out, less cash. All right, we don't want that, right? So again, the truth is sales isn't your problem, it isn't your bottleneck, but it might be where you're spending most of your time and your energy. All right. And it may be the one thing that we're focusing on or and not getting the results that we want, right? So you don't need more hustle. You need smarter systems and better focus. Okay. So again, we talked about the concept last week around systems and people. This week, it's going to be more about how do we create a mindset? How do we create a framework that allows us to remain focused, allows us to push forward into achieving better results in our business and not just get stuck in the day-to-day operations or become complacent. All right. So what's the real cost of this belief? All right. So let's think about it for a second. How many of us are chasing low profit, high drama jobs? How many of you guys have taken jobs that you knew right away, all right, that were going to be a problem, and you had that feeling and you took them anyways, and boom, now we got egg on our face, right? How many of us are drowning in admin and doing everything manually? All right, I can say that for the majority of the people I speak with. And if they're not drowning in it, they're just not doing it at all, and there's other repercussions of that, right? Hiring help, but still stuck in the field. Spoke to a gentleman today that's made three or four strategic hires, and is now more in the field than ever. Okay. And that's just basically because he didn't have a system for onboarding training and didn't have a system or didn't think ahead about how to supervise these new staff members. And now it's all up to him. So this actually sucked him even further into the field. Okay. So I want to use an example. All right, we worked with a builder, a renovator named Mike. All right, and the majority of his day was tied up in getting permits, supply runs, client updates, payroll. Right, and none of these things he was doing very well. All right, he openly shared with me that he hated doing those things in particular. Right? Can you imagine that? I'm sure everyone here can think of those things that they're doing and that they dislike doing. All right. Again, this is a big part of the 80/20 principle is that if we do not like doing something, even if we're competent at doing it, okay, we're never going to achieve a great level of success with it, right? So the simplest way, and I shared this one last week if you guys were here, but I have never once in my entire life woke up and been like, hot damn, I've got a whole bunch of accounting to do today. I can't wait to sit in a dark room and crunch numbers. Never once. I swear to God, never once. Maybe some of you guys have, and that'd be really exciting for you. But in my world, I'd rather scratch my own eyeballs out than do that. So what do I have to do? I have to make sure that I'm looking at that properly, all right? Just putting everything on yourself and overwhelming yourself with all these things we have to do, all right? It's very easy for your brain to run away with everything you have to do. And what
Oh,
we don't do is
that's
actually
what I
set up a
get.
way.
That's
Oh,
all the interest. Is that
one
all
second.
I get? Oh, you know what?
What we haven't actually done is set up a way to delegate these things, to get these things off our plate, to move these things away from our energy source, right? And we really want to think about that. How much energy, how much time is these things zapping? All right. And just telling yourself no one else can do it, all right, is telling yourself a lie. That's a false belief that you're holding. When in fact, if we looked at it from a dollar and cents point of view only, purely logical, all right. No one on this call here, if you own a construction company, and very few, if you're in management, can afford to do any of those tasks. All right. And it's a very simple principle. Your hourly wage, the amount that you should be being paid yourself as a CEO, nothing less than $240 an hour. Okay. So if you're doing an admin task, that is a $25 to $30 an hour task. Congratulations, you're taking a loss every hour you do those things. Now, do they need to get done? Yes, of course. Okay? But here's the thing. We have to identify them. We have to make sure that we've got a clear game plan for moving those things away from us. And what you're going to find is that you're left with these very high important tasks that you need to do, such as going and building new business, right? Meeting with a client, right? Closing a job, $1,000 an hour all day, right? But we're not getting to those things because we're too tied up with the other things we shouldn't be doing. So again, what changed everything for Mike was realizing that systems and strategy unlock growth. Okay. Pure hustle alone will not grow you past a certain point. I've seen it, you can get to $1 million maybe. Probably not profitably. All right. But moving beyond that, it's very, very difficult to be to wear all the hats. You have to work through people more often than not. And especially if you want to go beyond that and have a business that operates without you. Okay. Even more as a CEO, as a true CEO. So if you found yourself in the CEO role, okay, where you're running a to $5 million company and you're making real money, this principle applies even further. You have to learn to say no to a lot of things, okay, and keep your attention on the $1,000 an hour tasks,
Oh,
$1,000 an hour results, the long-term vision of the business. Okay. And most of us are just simply not prepared for that, right? We simply are still in the doer phase. Okay. And the doers, all right, comes from being in the trades, right? If you wanted something done, you did it, right? That's the way that the trades, forms you. Okay. That's the environment you're coming from. If you're not, again, maybe you've got more experience in the delegation level, right? That's where maybe we're a project manager and we have to learn to delegate. We can't do, all right? But I would say the majority of owners are still stuck in that doer mindset where if I do it, I'm saving money, or if I do it, it's getting done. And no one can do it like me. All of these things, all right. And really what you're doing is cutting your own growth. You're kicking out your own feet, right? So the 80-20 rule here is focus on what drives profit. Stop trying to be everything to everyone. Okay. Maybe you guys have, for you guys that have listened in a few times, you'll hear me often say the most profitable word in my vocabulary that I ever had, all right, was no. Made me millions of dollars. Okay. On the contrary, saying yes to everything else is easily cost you millions of dollars. So put that into perspective, right? A lot of us say yes too often to things that we should not be doing that are going to suck back our energy and time. Okay. So what exactly is this 80-20 rule? All right. So to put it in perspective, 20% of the effort or 20% of clients are 80% of your stress. Okay. So how many can relate to this? Maybe give me a one in the chat. How many can easily say and think about that Karen of a client that just loves to blow up your phone, waste your time, give you all types of problems? How many of you can say, all right, without a doubt, that we have our energy is being drained away by some of these type of clients. We call them B or C's or D clients. Okay. All right. And especially guys, if you're doing repeat business, all right? If you have, clients, and I see this a lot with electricians, plumbers that are doing, working in the commercial side, especially where they have commercial clients that just really mistreat them, don't pay them properly. And really, when we look at it, how many of those top A clients are they losing as a result of being tied up and busy with these C and D clients? Okay. If they just got rid of those and focused on the ones that were bringing results to their business would grow, right? Simple concept. So 20% of the effort, 80% of the result. That's where we want to be. We want to be in that zone. Okay. So let's keep things simple. All right. I want to make sure that we're walking away with a simple framework that we can start to implement and a simple way to go about practicing this 80-20 rule. All right. So first of all, you want to identify the 20% winners. Okay. So this can be in sales, this can be in production, this can be literally in any part of your business that you are struggling with and feeling overwhelmed. Okay. What is the 20%? All right. Take customers, for example, that are bringing huge results to the business. Okay. That are moving the needle forward. Okay. And what about that 80%? That 80%, the rest we want to eliminate or systemize. Okay. So another good example for this would be to maybe automate the initial intake of your sales process. Okay. So that anyone that's not, in line with your brand or doesn't qualify, all right, you're not actually having to manually communicate with and figure that out with, right? That's a very easy way to get to that 20% of customers that get through that screen. Okay. And bam, we've saved a whole bunch of time. All right. And we've really now made our days much better because we're dealing with ideal clients, right? You want to double down on profitable clients. Okay. Too often, guys aren't actually looking at their numbers. All right. They're not really looking at the right things to judge a customer correctly. And if anyone's interested in how to actually look at a customer properly and provide a number or a scale to it, we have other training that's available in our school platform that goes through this training. But in my business, we do it every quarter where we look at our existing customer base. We look at our reoccurring customer base, which we have a pretty decent amount. All right. And we're looking at what we would score that customer in, right? And it's a scale from A to D. All right. Anybody that falls in the D category is fired. We fire customers consistently and regularly, and we call it pruning the tree. Okay. And especially if you're in a reoccurring model of business. On the other end, there's other customers that are your A's that maybe you haven't been in touch with lately that you should get in touch with and create more business with, right? Instead of chasing the C's or D's or the outside chance, we can double down on that. Double down on our profitable clients. Focus on taking care of them, and they're going to help your business grow. All right. More importantly, they're going to help your business grow with the right kind of customers. Because I can assure you from experience, A customers don't refer D customers. All right. On the contrary, D customers refer C's and D customers. Right. So again, think about that for a second. If you have a D customer, do you want to get a referral from them? Right? Do you want to continue working with them long term? Do you want them, sharing them with similar people? No, you don't. You want to eliminate that relationship. All right. If you, again, look at it that way, and we only focused in on the A and B clients and we're able to say no to those C's and D's, how much more would your business grow? Right. So if we want to focus on our own personal day, all right, and I feel like before we can talk about business and before we can really be focused on bringing a big result to the company, we have to clear our own schedules. We have to be the master of our own schedule, all right? Out of curiosity, before I go into this particular part of the discussion, in the chat box, how many of you guys are you actively using a schedule or a calendar? Just so I know how to position this. How many of you guys are actively using a calendar and a schedule? I do. Okay. Oh, come on. There's got to be more than that. Oh boy. Okay. All right. No, this became a whole lot more interesting then. I do. Okay, cool. All right. So, I'll share first my own personal experience. I do absolutely nothing unless it's in a schedule. Okay. And I don't actually make the schedule. I have a VA that's my keeper. All right. Even today and for the foreseeable months, I have my days very much scheduled and routined. Okay. The reason for that, okay, is exactly what I'm saying about this 80/20 rule. All right. If I were to distract myself with all the requests, all the things I could be doing that weren't as important, all right, as maybe being here today, all right, I would find myself running around consistently just, reacting to things. Okay, getting my cortisol chemicals in my body all worked up. I don't want that, right? That's not a good way to show up and be a high performer. Instead, I have a screen, all right? And we have a criteria that we follow whether something gets in my schedule or not. Okay? And then I simply wake up and I show up to those scheduled events. All right? If I have to be prepared, my team gets me everything I need to be prepared for. If I have to, take some time to work on something before a meeting, they get that into my schedule. Okay? You can do the exact same thing and your life will change dramatically. Okay? Now, you as the CEO is the leader of the band. If you are not capable of scheduling out your days and accepting and saying no to certain things that are eating up your time, all right, what do you think we're teaching our team to be like? What example are we setting? Okay. So again, getting back your own time, getting back your own priorities, all right, is step one. Okay, because like I said, this becomes contagious. There is not one staff member that I have in my business here at Contractor AI or at J Carter Roofing that does not have a calendar, that does not have a schedule that gets laid out in advance. Okay. Now, did I force that down their throat? Nope. Nope. I mean, they could probably go off that schedule, but they choose to do that because they see the efficiency and they get the results of somebody that's doing it as the leader. Okay. So again, this is the first place you want to start. And it's the first place where you're going to get some clarity and certainty and be able to include the things that are going to help the business grow. So again, when I identify that thing that's going to be, bring 80% of the result to the business, maybe it's a sales meeting, maybe it's an operations course. It can be any of those things that are going to really help to benefit the business. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in my schedule and I'm going to block that time off so that I can focus on it. All right. I want the most benefit, the biggest benefit from it. I'm going to put that in my schedule. Okay. Time blocking is a whole other discussion. We have training on that if you're interested. All right. But essentially, it comes down to just that. We need to focus on the few things that are really going to benefit the business and ignore the others or delegate out the rest. Pretty simple. Anybody really confused by what I'm saying so far? No, but only on out of office appointments. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, again, you know, in terms of using your schedule, it's more for you to have clarity and focus in those appointments that you're actually taking on. How many of you guys have gone into a maybe a sales call completely distracted, thinking about other things going on in the business and other problems, other fires going on, and didn't land the deal, right? How many? Again, think about this for a second. How many of us are running around doing operation things, all right, when we have an opportunity to close a big sale? And then that big sale, because it's not right there in your face, all right, sits a little bit longer. And maybe somebody else like me gets there quicker, sells the deal, and by the time you show up, I've already half done the job, right? Why is that? It's because we focus on the things that move the needle, all right? We're not taking our eyes off the things that are going to bring the biggest results. We're not getting distracted by operational things. All right. Not to say they're not important and they don't need to be dealt with, but this is what systems and planning is all about. Right. So all those things that we identify that are not doing, the big work, that's where we start in delegating. That's where we start in identifying those tasks that we need to get away from our day to day. Okay. So a good example, we work with a company called Electro Elite. Steven, actually a personal friend of mine, been working with him for years. All right, I'll give you a very good example of his recent reminder of this. We were able to take five low value service or five low value tasks and services, and we assign them to a VA. Those services happen to be hiring, happen to be lead qualification, calendar management, and two administrative tasks. Okay. So the result was we managed to hire two technicians, so fully qualified technicians and a CSR in about a week and a half's time. Why? Because I had the VA focus on hiring. On the other hand, he had been trying to hire them for years, and couldn't get the process working. Ran out of time, missed interviews, didn't do the work that it required to actually get in front of enough people, and just continuously had himself being pulled into the business. CSR, we hired a CSR because he was taking all of his own calls, constantly being distracted. Okay. A very good example of this. It takes about 45 minutes for you to get your attention back after you've been distracted. All right. And I would say for contractors, it's even worse. So, what happens at that stage? We have something really important to do, like a super large proposal. Okay. We're working on $1 million proposal and we're getting distracted minute by minute by low value tasks, right? Admins coming to you, yeah, subcontractors, staff just constantly calling you. Okay. And where's that attention go? Goes to that. It's distracted, right? And it takes you, again, like I said, about 45 minutes to recover from that. And that's where the biggest mistakes get made, right? So instead of working on the thing that could bring the biggest value to the business, we allowed ourselves to get distracted and therefore everything suffers. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Does it sound like something you may be experiencing now? I know we have a shy group again today, right? Yeah. Very, very common. Okay. So, what was the result of making these changes? Extremely significant. So, those five tasks, all right, when we did a time audit with Steve, we're taking up, no word of a lie, we're taking up 38% of his time. 38%. Okay. And think about this, and I didn't make these numbers up. So when we took them off his plate, revenue went up 40%. All right. His admin time went down 80%. We actually hired a CSR, recognized how important a CSR was to take all of that off of his plate. Okay. And again, we've seen huge, huge leaps in his business to the point now where, again, he's able to think like a CEO. He's finally in a place where he's doesn't feel burdened or overwhelmed by just the day-to-day waking up, right? And at one point, he was actually ready to quit. He didn't want to, he was just going to go get a job somewhere. Okay. And the best of all, he landed a huge city maintenance contract. All right, that's going to keep his company busy at a very profitable number for the foreseeable future. So a huge turnaround for him and his business. And again, by making these changes, we didn't just see the benefit in the business. We seen it in his whole life, in everything that he was doing, waking up with energy, right? Being excited about coming to work again, right? Not feeling a terrible, drag when he didn't work late. Like again, all of these things are related to a few little things that we're spending our time doing, and maybe you realize it, maybe you don't yet, all right? But it's killing the energy. It's killing your momentum. It's taking away that high quality attention that you need to spend to grow a business, right? So let's talk about some quick wins that we can implement today that you guys can walk away with, that you can think of, and you can put this principle to work at. So write down the top 5 most profitable jobs that you have, right? Hopefully you're doing your job costing. Again, if you're not, right? It's very important that we start with that infrastructure piece. And we have lots of training on that. If you need that, reach out to us. All right. List the 3 tasks you can delegate or eliminate, right? What are 3 tasks right now that you know of that you hate doing, all right, that take your energy, all right? We either need to eliminate them or delegate them. Okay. Block 2 hours in your calendar this week for strategy only. Okay. Very simple. If you're using a calendar, if you're not, this could be your first try at it. All right. Plan your day. All right. Is it wise to go into a construction project without a set of plans or a strategy on how to do the work? Is it wise? Is it profitable? Probably not, right? I'm sure some of you guys do. I wouldn't be surprised. All right. But that seldomly works out, at least at the higher end of things, right? We have to think the same way about our time, right? We got to be the masters there. We got to be the masters of showing leadership, all right? And the first stage of doing that, again, get back your own time. Spend your time blocked in a space where you're not distracted, where you can get your most important tasks done. Okay. For me, and I'll share this with you, maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. I'm a very early riser. I like to get up around 4:30. All right. That's where the majority of my energy is when I have the most energy and where I'm able to think clearest. All right. And I have no distractions. I get everything done that I know is going to be technical or difficult, right? If I have to you know, write a contract, or if I have to do anything that is going to involve some brain power on my end, all right, I get those things done first. All right. Then by about 9 o'clock, when the phones start to ring or the distractions come in, I've got those things out of the way. I've already won the day. Okay. And what this is allowing me to do is work a lot less. Okay. And it's just by planning those things out, right? Just by putting them in a schedule with the reminder to get them done. Okay. So where's your 80-20 breakthrough, right? We want to think of an area where you can apply this, right? I would suggest you guys look at the area that's bringing you the most amount of, is sucking back the most amount of your time and where you get no energy from. All right. So I shared with you a little earlier, accounting, not my jam, not something I enjoy doing. All right. You would never see it in my calendar. Now I review my financials. Okay. I go through my balance sheets, and ironically, I work with our clients on accounting things. All right. But again, everything else is systemized, everything else is delegated. I'm not data entering anything. All right. So I want you to think of one area of your business where we could have this big breakthrough. Maybe it's sales, clients, service, time, team. All right. Drop the one task that you guys have thought about now in the chat. Give me the one task. Let's make it real. Guys, if you don't write it down, if you don't say it to the world, it's not real, it's in your head. Okay? You'll be amazed at the power of getting it out of your head, getting it out on paper. All right? So, paperwork. What else could be delegated? What else could be, what would you like to get off your plate? Invoicing. Yep. Okay, great place to start. Emails, small orders, answering phones. Yep. Anybody that knows me personally knows that I have not answered a cell phone call in about 5 years. right? I don't care if you're my friend, my family, I don't answer my phone. All right. I actually wait for the voicemail message and I'll check them later. I have very limited time that I will spend, all right, to return phone calls. All right. And I am unapologetic about that. Okay. I don't, again, that's a boundary, that's a rule. I hate answering the phone. I'm not going to stop anything that I'm doing and break my focus to pick up the phone. Okay. Everything else can wait. If it's an emergency, if the people that I have around me know how to handle that, maybe that's not for everybody here, but the phone is a big distraction for me. Okay. And that's a personal preference, but for all of you, maybe that's something you get delegated out, taking calls, right? What else? Guys, give me a few more here. Let me know you guys are alive out there. What else could be delegated? Follow-ups. Yeah, another great one. Organizing time and email. Absolutely. Again, it may seem like a small thing, okay? But having someone else build your calendar and putting the criteria out is really it's just like in sales, right? I always found the person that was in charge of selling the job shouldn't be setting the appointment. All right. Why? Because you want to sell everything, right? You break your own rules, you break your own criterias to sell, right? You have a good call with someone, you think they're qualified just from that conversation, the energy you're getting, and then lo and behold, they're not qualified, all right? But you're out there chasing it, right? So I have an appointment setter, somebody that uses a criteria that's separate from me that determines whether someone's qualified or not, right? Again, how many guys could benefit from that, right? Estimating, yeah, another big one. So applying the 80/20 to estimating. A lot of estimating is data entry, right? It's manual work in a lot of cases, okay? So take the whole thing of developing an estimate. Maybe you're taking it from plans, you're finding square footages. All of that can be easily delegated. Okay. There's lots of programs and software as well that can help systemize that depending on what area you're in. Maybe you do the final review of that estimate before it goes out, right? You adjust your numbers, but you're not actually doing the collecting of the data and entering of the data. That's where a lot of time is lost. And again, nowadays we can use AI, we can use lots of things to speed that process up. All right. Very specific to your business, of course, but we all need to be thinking about how we can produce estimates as quickly and as efficiently as possible, right? And again, back to speed to lead, fixing that problem is a big area. Market research. Oh, you're killing it, Mario. That's a great one as well. Yep. A VA all day long. Can you imagine yourself spending 3 or 4 hours researching something at this point? Right? Is that a great use of your time? And here's the sad part about it is most of us put the burden on ourselves that if I don't do it, no one else will, right? So we go and put our $50 an hour time down on that when somebody could have come in and done it way better than you at a much cheaper rate and been happy about it, right? They're in their zone of genius doing research. I have girls that do research that will crush any research I could ever imagine doing, right? Find me contacts that I don't even know how they've come up, and I built the system. So again, think about that. There are people that are extremely talented and absolutely are thrilled every day waking up and doing bookkeeping, right? That's their zone of G. Like if you left them there in a dark room to crunch numbers, they're happier than hell. Find those people to be on your team. Okay. Not only is it going to get done, it's going to get done well, all right, and consistently. Having yourself in that role, not so much. No matter how hard you try. No matter how much you grit your teeth or try to hustle, that's never going to be something that is going to help your business grow beyond you if you don't love doing it. Right? Updating prices, absolutely. Marketing, absolutely. Again, lots of areas of marketing require data entry, require research, require all these things we're discussing. All right. Where now we can delegate those parts out. All right. And focus on the bigger picture, the better results. Right? Cool. So if you're totally lost here, guys, I'm happy to book a call with you. If you're interested, we can do an audit, figure out where you can be focusing your time. If you're a current client, of course, this is a good activity. Please book your calls. Most of my members, we talk about this regularly. and we're always looking at getting things off our plate. Mario, do you mind if I use you as an example quickly?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
All right. So Mario, we are working with you on hiring, correct?
Yes.
Right? What was the benefit of using a VA to do all the screening before the final interview?
Oh, I freed up hours and hours of my time.
Right. Right? And relatively painless compared to
Yeah.
you trying to do that. And again, the results speak, right? We can cover more ground, we can talk to more people, all right? But we have to have both systems and the way to delegate that, right? So again, that's a perfect example of the 80/20 rule. I wasn't going to tell Mario, hey, you gotta double down on hiring and spend every day finding the right guy for everything. Now, if there were no other options and we didn't set that up, he would have been forced to do that role, right? And that would have taken the business backwards.
And I have
Yeah,
before, and I hated every minute of it. It's like, I should
absolutely.
be talking to you right now. Like, why am I talking to you? You're not
Right.
qualified.
Right. Right. Just a total waste of your time. That's one thing. Again, none of our members should be doing their initial screening of candidates because we can get hundreds of them through in some conditions. All right. Can you imagine spending your entire day sifting through 100 maybe qualified applicants for one role? Right. By the way, guys, for hiring purposes and for this discussion, it is taking on average 100 applications right now to make one single hire. 100 applications, 100 potential prospects. Think about that for a second. All right. And this is getting worse and worse and worse. And it's a North American thing, especially now. All right. And it's also one of the most important things for our company to grow. We can't grow without having enough resources and a warm bench to grow our business, right? We can sell all we want. If we have no manpower to do it, then where are we at? Right. So let's maybe look at this by trade base. By the way, I'll throw my booking link in the chat there for anyone that wants to look at this a little more carefully and see where you can get back time in your business and your strategy. All right, it really does apply to anywhere that you're struggling. Um, so focus on full-on gut renos, not patchwork, right? See this a lot where remodelers decide to masquerade as handyman, right? Small projects, $1,000, $1,500. They got to learn to say no to that stuff, right? They're just not set up to make money there. They got to find their zone and stay in it, right? If your specialty is projects 100 to $200,000, all right, every time you're doing one below that, you might be thinking that you're still making money or whatever. But think of all the distractions. Think about all of the problems that come about with that, right? There's a good saying, we don't die for falling swords, right? I see it all the time. Again, just because we can doesn't mean we should, right? So for roofers, push big square foot jobs and maintenance plans. Okay? Pretty simple, right? We only want to do big, large scale jobs. In my business, our minimum is about 50 grand, right? And we do maintenance, right? That's it. That's all we offer. Okay. And again, it took us a long time to get there. There's lots of opportunities and all different types of systems and things out there, just like with you guys. All right. But we choose to focus on the things that we're really, really good at doing. All right. And I reduce the variables in my business. I reduce the amount of mountains that I've got to climb in order to achieve something. Right. And I make it really, really basic and well oiled, easy to run. Okay. For fall prep, landscapers trim low margin work now and finish strong with prep for winter, right? So again, for my landscapers out there that are carrying clients that you're making low margins on, all right, do we want to drag those ones into the winter on a reoccurring contract? Okay. So again, just like I said, firing customers is healthy for the business in lots of situations, not all, but in a lot of situations. Okay. Those customers that consistently request quotes and you only win one of 10 jobs, get rid of them. Okay. You can go in and see how many quotes have I given out? How many jobs did I win? Right? Were those jobs profitable? Right? If they're not, then you have somebody that's using you as a transaction. All right. We need to get rid of that. That's not going to help your business grow and it's going to continue to be an energy drain for you and the business. Okay. For those guys that are just living off referrals, again, really evaluate if that's the right approach for yourself at this rate, right? Are they consistent enough? Are you getting enough work ahead? All right. Are you 3 months, 90 days booked out consistently with that? If you're not and you have holes in your schedule, all right, it's time to look at a different marketing strategy. Okay. That's going to require a different perspective and time and energy for you to put into it, but that will move the business forward. Okay. Just staying where you're at, though, is going to keep you stuck. All right. We have to change that behavior. We have to move that around. Okay. So before we get wrapped up here, guys, I would love to hear your feedback or your questions on delegation, on how to apply this principle, um, and anything else that you're curious to know about. All right. I'm leaving for vacation right after this, so I don't mind if you have nothing. No problem. But it's a great time to get your questions answered, right? If you're still a little bit shy, feel free to put it into the chat here, guys. All right, let's have a discussion. That's what I'm here for today. This isn't me just coming up and dictating from a pedestal. I love to have a discussion with anybody that's struggling right now.
I think for me, um, figuring out it, like hiring a VA is good, but like there's so many tasks that I can think of to
Mhm.
outsource.
Yep.
Um, what kind of qualities should I look for, and um, would it be wise to maybe hire more than one just part time, or should I teach the one everything, or like what's your take on that?
Yeah, so first step in any of this stuff, so if you're dealing with a huge amount of overwhelm, and you have a huge amount of tasks that are maybe not getting done is let's identify who does what, right? So we have that document, and ironically, that goes with what you can delegate to an admin, right? So if you haven't seen that, who does what, grab it from us, guys. But that's the first place to start. Get your absolutely critical roles like worked out. We like to put the SOPs to them, have instructions on how to do them, so that now we can really look at what kind of person can maintain those things. And when they come into your business, whether you hire a VA, whether you hire a brand new admin or part-time, whatever, all of that is more structured on how are you going to onboard and train them at an efficient level that doesn't take all your time, right? So if we think ahead and plan ahead for this, and we identify the task first, right? Get it out of our head, get it out on paper, all right? Mario, you can work with us. We've got all the SOPs. I mean, just getting those things. We've done it with your sales team, with the sales, productivity. Like somebody could come in and pick up where you're leaving off. Does that make sense? Right? So again, when we get those things, even if they're very simple things, all right, now we're ready to actually make that decision on who's it going to fit. Because you may do those SOPs, realize, hey, I have 25 hours of time here. If all of these things were getting done, right, it would take 25 hours a week. There's your answer, right? And when you're writing the SOPs, again, we have training on that too, guys, not to sound like a broken record here, but when you do an SOP, it times how long it takes to do a task, right? So now I can take that time and I know what I'm delegating out, how much hours, how much, and where we'd use a VA is if you're working with less than 10 or 20 hours a week, you'd want to use a VA. All right. If you've got more than that, you may want to think about bringing somebody in more full time that can be at your office. That's sort of the rule of thumb for me. Or you can go out all to VAs, but I would spread it amongst VAs because you can get VAs with different talents, right? So I'm not going to take my administrative tasks to a marketing VA, for example, and be like, someone that's creative that can generate content. I'm not gonna hand that to them. I'm gonna find someone that enjoys doing administrative and has the skills for that, and I'm just gonna give them those tasks, right? So again, that's the benefit of a VA. Really, you're paying for one person, but you're getting five different talented people working with you fractionally, right? Cool. Any other questions, guys? No? Okay. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks.